Well, good evening. Welcome to the Hockomock Filmmakers Presents, the Film Connection. I'm Lauren Swartz, your hostess, and I am a member of the Hockomock Film Festival Committee. I'd like to welcome you to our new retooled organization. We were formerly the Easton Film Festival, and we have branched out now to cover many of the South Shore towns and welcoming them into our budding family. So if you are new to the show, welcome. The Hockomock Film Festival is an organization that celebrates filmmaking, film interests, all kinds of budding talent in the Hockomock area. We do this in a number of venues. We have a bi-monthly film club that currently is showing films at the Andrews Bakery on Belmont Street in Easton, which is directly across from the Stonehill College main entrance. Friday evenings, every other Friday evening at 7 p.m., we show free of charge a classic film. This is run by Mr. Ed Hand, who's a professor at Oliver Ames High School. The group sits and watches the movie, talks about it, enjoys the pastries at Julie's Bakery, and generally has a great time sharing a love of film watching and film history. So we hope you can join us for that. The film festival also has a film jam, fun kind of weekend activity. Several times a year we'll come together to produce basically a 5-minute film. Teams show up, you draw a genre of film out of a hat, and you draw separately a line of dialogue out of a hat. And you have to combine the two of those in a 5-minute production over the course of a weekend. Envision, script, build, cut, produce this 5-minute short, and then the following weekend everybody gets together and we vote on the winners, and we have prizes. It's a lot of fun. It's filmmaking at its most raw, and it's been a way that a lot of people in the community have come to meet each other, started having a lot of fun with filmmaking. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for those upcoming events, as well as our annual film competition, which highlights a year of filmmaking for all ages, all abilities and talents, and this is held in June over at Stonehill College. So submissions start to trickle in maybe March, April-ish, and are in several different categories and several different prizes categories. So you need to find all of this information out either by looking in the Easton Journal, or by contacting us on our website. We have a new website called hockomockfilmfestival.com, and you can contact us at that website by writing to support@hockomockfilmfestival.com. And on our website you can find out all the information about the film club, the film jam, the film competition, and so if we have inspired you or whetted your appetite in any way, that's where you'll go. Again, the Eastern Journal does a wonderful job of showcasing our activities, and so that you can see regularly if you receive the Eastern Journal. But the final way that we're happy to come to you is by this show that you're watching us Mondays or Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 4:30, and we bring to you your friends, your neighbors, a talent that you might not even know is right here in the Hockomock area. And this evening I'm very pleased to welcome a local filmmaker who's had many successes. He's going to be sharing that with us as well, Joe Conforti. Good evening,
Good evening.
And thank you for joining us. You've been a visitor before, and we asked you to come back because you have a lot of great stories and you've had a lot of experience in filmmaking, script writing, in some of the bumps and bruises along the way. So we want to pick your brain and hear a lot about your stories. So, so thank you for coming back.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You are currently working on a project called Out of Alignment.
Correct.
Which is, we've talked about it in a previous show. But what I'd like to know more about is really you, a little bit more about your background. I think you have a family and some other careers that you've done before you came to script writing and film producing. So if you could tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, your family, your background.
Okay, I grew up in Brookline.
Okay.
Graduated Brookline High School, joined the Marine Corps, spent a tour in Vietnam, came back, went to Northeastern, graduated, went back in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And flew. I was a jet pilot in the Marine Corps, and spent 24 years. I did reserve and active. I did 9 years active. Went on Desert Storm.
Okay.
That's how I got into screenwriting. And I have a family. I have a daughter, 2 sons and a daughter.
Okay.
My daughter was in the film as a waitress. I had a son who just got back from Iraq. He was in the Army.
Really?
And another son who was in the Marine Corps. He's out now. So 3 children. My wife, Terry.
Okay.
She's an actress. She's involved in this film in every way, from acting to production.
Okay.
And what else? Flew with Continental Airlines for. I'm still an employee of Continental. I'm out in a medical because of my back.
Okay.
And flew with them for about 24 years now. I been a captain most of the time there.
Oh.
And then I got into screenwriting during Desert Storm. I wrote a
Okay.
screenplay, which we talked about before, that
Right.
somebody in LA liked, and ended up signing with an agent out there.
Okay.
That was about 12 years ago.
Wow.
I think even more now, my God. 14 years ago.
Okay.
And started writing screenplays ever since.
Okay.
So.
So now you mentioned your family. Now, are any of your children involved and interested in filmmaking at all?
My daughter acted in this one, and she was in.
Okay.
She's 18, and she
All right.
was in the earlier one as an extra. She's taking a course in cosmetology. She's really
Okay.
interested in becoming a hairdresser,
Okay.
so that could
Oh,
work its
sure.
way into this business.
Now,
so.
how was it directing her?
I'm not
helping
sure I
her-
directed her.
Okay, that makes sense.
She was pretty cool. She just
Yeah.
did her thing, and she was good.
Okay, and your wife is also
Yeah,
in
she's
this
an
film.
experienced actress.
And has she
and
been in
model.
other projects of yours?
She was in Abracadabra, the first one.
Okay.
And the first film we did, and she's still working. She just did a commercial here in Boston for
Okay.
I think mass tourism. So
Oh.
she's still actively working. She really started picking up again on her modeling and print.
Okay.
So she's involved in every aspect.
Well, now, had you met prior to both of your career successes, or did you meet because of your interests?
Actually, we met on an airplane.
Okay.
So I was reading a book on screenwriting, and she was in the business, so she, like all actresses, saw that I was
Okay.
reading this book and asked me about what my interests were, and I told her I was making a movie, and
Right.
instantly I got a portfolio.
Really?
So well, they're always actresses
That's
and
true.
actors are always looking for
Okay.
work in most cases, and that's how we met. It was
Okay.
interesting.
All righty. And so now she's done. You mentioned she does commercials and things.
She's doing commercials and trying to do some more print work. She did a lot of that in Florida.
How exciting!
As a matter of fact, she
Okay.
was the Levitt's Furniture spokesperson here in
Oh.
Massachusetts, out of Florida for years.
Wow.
The Levitt at Levitt's commercials.
So she's one of those who, when you walk down the street, you look and I know her. Do I know her from Girl Scouts, or do I know her from the TV news? Right? She's one of those kind of faces.
Right.
Wow.
She was working talent.
That's neat. That's
hard-working
exciting.
talent. Right.
Okay. So she's involved in this film in several ways.
Right.
Both in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
She's got a pretty good role in the movie, and she does everything from cooking meals for extras to. She's very technical, so she does.
Okay.
A lot of the technical end, and she works with Carl, who's the DP, and he's great,
Okay.
very talented.
What is a DP?
Director of photography.
Okay.
And she'll work sound, she'll work as a production assistant, she'll work in continuity, just about everything.
Wow. Okay. So she had experience. I mean, I guess she's gained that experience through her years in the business.
Right.
And what about Carl? How did you come to hook up with him?
That was interesting. I went to a Jimmy Tingle,
Okay.
one of his comedy nights in Cambridge, and
Sure.
we were about ready to start looking to shoot Abracadabra in the next 6 months.
Okay.
And Carl was there shooting. He was the videographer for Jimmy Tingle, and we just got to talking and became friends and did some work together, and have been friends ever since.
Okay. So many times when you'll think of a project, you'll say, oh, the atmosphere I want, the image I want, I'm going to call Carl. Or do you know a few other directors of photography, and depending on which where you feel you want the project to go, you can call them one or the other?
Yeah, we knew we'd work well together. You know,
Okay.
we never really did anything except small projects. We did a lot of the trailers for Abracadabra, which when we made that movie, a production company came in and actually a producer from LA came in and
Okay.
a director, a local director who'd done some work and really took over. So we didn't work together after that. But when I knew I was going to make my own movie, one of the biggest things for me was teamwork.
Okay.
Bad team, and I think that comes from my Marine Corps background.
Yeah.
Bad team, bad product, you know, bad
that's true.
execution. So I knew that working with Carl would be something we could do.
Okay.
At least I'd worked with him before, and I knew we had similar, you know, beliefs in the product. So just worked from there. That
Okay.
I knew that we could work together.
Okay, good. So with all projects that you've done, you started with an idea concept. Do you know what the finished product, you have an idea in your mind what the finished product is, you want it to look like?
Yeah, I definitely, the way I try to direct it, I'm not an experienced director, but the way I'm a story guy. I like to direct my own stories. I don't like to see them destroyed by somebody else.
Right.
Unless somebody bought the screenplay for, you know, a decent amount of money and said, we own it now, well, it's yours.
Right.
But if that's not happening, I want to be in complete control of my story.
Okay.
And I have an idea what I want in terms of light, darkness, scenes, set a tone and a theme.
Okay.
Leave it to Carl to set those up based on, I do storyboards and might even shadow certain things. And then Carl really will set up with his folks the set.
Okay.
Because that allows me, and I'm learning this, because if you don't have time, if you're concentrating too much on the technical end, the lighting, and a lot of other things, you're really not paying attention to the performance.
Sure.
So I like to pay attention to the performance. I'm more of a story person than a technical person, you know, but I know what I want.
Right.
I know the theme, and Carl and I will discuss it. We discuss going from light to dark to light. First act light, second act darkness, and third act light again.
Okay.
That sets a theme for him. Then when I storyboard it, and I say, here's basically what I want. And next time I'm in, I'll show you the storyboards. This is the storyboard. This is how I see it. Well, he'll take it and tweak. He'll look at it and go, well, we're going to set it up this way. We have lighting issues. We have issues with the continuity. The door really isn't here in this room.
Okay.
We've shot 2 different rooms and from the outside and inside. But he gets the basic idea, which he says for him is instrumental in making the process work quicker. So it's just working together like that.
Do you generally agree, or maybe 50% of the time you agree?
I think we generally agree
Okay.
because unless it's a shot that I think as a writer has to be shot a certain way, I'm not really that interested in, I shouldn't say not that interested, but Carl will set it up right. He'll set it up the way he wants with lighting. But if it's something that I really want to see, it's something I'm really interested in, then we'll
do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That sounds fair. Now, when, then the follow-up question to that is, if you then insist, okay, we got to do it my way, and then it really does look bad, then you say, I'm sorry, Carl, I'll go back and do it your way.
well, yeah, that hasn't happened yet, but if I insist on something, which I really haven't had to do, and it looks bad, and people say it looks bad, then one of the things that I do, and I learned it from being a captain and being a leader in the Marine Corps, is that you're not going to have the best ideas all the time. If you think you are, I think you're kidding yourself.
Right.
So if somebody says, like my wife one night saw a shot that went beautifully through this box, it was a shot in hemisphere, and it was shot through this this area that just gave a real nice visual illusion. And I said, wow, that's a great idea. And I whispered, you know, in the end, I'm directing this thing. I'm going to get the credit for it. You know what I mean? But it is Terry's shot. Somebody else brings up a shot. One of the production people sees something that that they think is decent. Well, why wouldn't I take that and say, wow, that's a great idea? Because in the end, you know, because you come up with a good shot or because you come up with a good idea, that does not a screenplay make or a DP make.
Right.
You know, but you can put input to the movie, and if it looks good, why not? Be crazy not to shoot it.
Right. Well, and you've said yourself that you didn't start out in this business, in this education.
Right.
You've, I think, come around to that through a couple of, you know, career tweaks, but, you know, you're not nearly as experienced as someone else who would have been in filmmaking for the past 30 years would have those experiences. I think you mentioned that you're going back to school. Or you're currently in school.
Yeah, I'll explain. But one thing
Okay.
I want to bring up that's interesting,
Oh, yeah.
there's a gentleman, director, who did the Gap commercials, and I love to tell this story.
Oh, the
and
newer
they're
the ones
incredible. They got awards and all sorts
Oh,
of stuff.
yeah.
And he was taken, and there's stories like this I've read in this industry for years. And he's got a movie that's coming out. I forget the name of it, but it's getting some kind of recognition.
Okay.
But he tells a story that when he came from the art world, and when he got on the set of the Gap commercials, he had to go to somebody to find out. He didn't know about framing or shots, so he went to the staff accountant and asked him and said, basically, what's the difference between a medium shot and a long shot? My point of that is that you do not have to be a technical expert to direct. There's directors out there in big movies who are not known as technical experts.
Right.
What you have to really have, I think, too, is a story sense
Okay.
and know every bit of that story. So there's different types of directors with very great experience who are
Right.
highly technical and story or
Right.
technical. So I think that's interesting.
So the difference is, I mean, the vision, the idea, the passion is there, and translating it, the best filmmakers should be able to recognize I don't know how to work all those kinds of things, but I'll have people that tell me how, or I'll know enough to ask.
Leadership and
Right.
directing, I think, is taking all the information, filtering it, and taking the best out,
Sure.
and then taking credit for it.
Sure. So what are you learning
So-
at Emerson?
I'm getting a master's degree in visual and media arts.
Okay.
And when I hurt my back, I decided I had some money left from the Veterans Administration.
Okay.
So I went back to school using that benefit. So I'm almost done.
Very nice.
Which has been great, because for
Okay.
me it's been learning the technical end. I decided to go the technical route rather than the writing route,
Okay.
because that's where I was weakest. I really needed to know a lot
Sure.
more about cameras, sound, production.
So as you're sitting in classes, that's how that works. Or do you
A
sometimes
lot.
feel like some light bulbs are just open?
Oh yeah. I could light a room.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. From sound to director's, line,
Right.
the perspective. It was the smartest move I've ever made, because it gives me a really sound working knowledge
Right.
of the production end, which the writing end I'm not worried about. I know
Okay.
I can write a decent screenplay.
Sure.
It's just a question of getting it to the right people.
Okay.
So you can always get better, but where I would need it if I wanted to direct to emphasize things was in the technical end, where I was weakest.
Are you surprised at the knowledge of the college kids in your industry?
Talk about feeling dumb.
Oh,
my
no.
God, yeah. They're so advanced on,
Right.
on this stuff that to catch up with them, I must hasten to catch them, for I am their leader, right?
That's it. Well, and again, our generation did not grow up with a computer attached to our pacifiers like these kids have.
Oh, they're amazing.
And so it's second nature to them, and it is frustrating at times, but it's also, at least my experience has been, that they so enjoy sharing their knowledge and showing that they, have a capacity for teaching as well. Somebody who just wants to learn.
Oh, absolutely. There's two people at Cambridge Video, Carl's company, and one's an Emerson graduate, one graduated Syracuse.
Okay.
And these two, they're young, and they are unbelievable. They put a rough cut of this together. They just work real hard. They're excited, and so yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible when somebody young gets involved in your project, because they're going to go in their own way. They've got their careers ahead of them,
Right.
and we're, Carl and I are a little bit older, so to get people involved and
Right.
excited, especially younger people, about your project, that's a good thing for me, because I see kind of a spectrum
Okay.
where, hey, these kids like it. They're not just saying, this is the dumbest thing I've seen.
Right.
What are these guys doing?
Right, but you do have that experience, and when either with the kids that you're at school with, or anybody who you would talk to, some of the things that you've shared knowledge-wise, what missteps have you taken?
Missteps in this film?
Or in your career as a screenwriter?
I think just writing screenplays, and again, I'm not a highly successful screenwriter. I've optioned one, I've sold one, I'm making another one.
Okay.
It's a tough business. You've got to have thick skin. You've got to constantly write. One thing I would tell people who want to be screenwriters is screenwriters write. They don't continually go to class. it's like flying, and I'm a highly experienced aviator at the top of the heap in aviation, and you get good at flying by strapping your butt in a cockpit and flying, not talking
Just
theory
do
all
it.
day long.
Right.
And I can run into people who can out-talk me on the theory of flight, but cannot outfly me. To be a writer, you have to write.
Yeah.
You can go to this screenplay course, you can go to that one. Eventually, they're all going to meld into the same thing. Three-act structure, you know, character arcs and development. You got to write a lot every day, or almost every day.
That's good
to
advice,
be
though.
Yeah, because
It's basic.
otherwise you're an amateur.
Right. That's very basic. Now, has luck played a part in any of your filmmaking career at all?
I'm not sure how much luck's played a part, because if I was really lucky, I would have sold a couple more scripts. I think it has to do with being relentless in trying to get your stuff out there. I mean, having 2 careers already, and then being a screenwriter, to have optioned a script, to have sold one, and now to be making one into a movie again, I think I'm pretty lucky in that respect. For younger people who are just starting out in the business, I think the one thing I would say is be relentless, because 90% of the screenwriters out there will fall by the wayside, just like pilots. You know, only 50,000 airline pilots are out there.
Right.
And there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pilots, people who want to fly for the airlines. So what separates one from the other? Persistence, really.
Okay.
Given a certain talent level.
I mean, it's true with any industry, but certainly in the arts, where many times it's much more personal. And your current project is semi-autobiographical with some embellishment. And you mentioned Abracadabra. Was that wasn't your first
That was the first one that was made into a movie. I had several. I wrote 2 war scripts about the Gulf War, and I had interest in those. I'd traveled to LA. I'd met with producers, but it's a really tough business, because you're always going to be told, just about constantly, that it's the wrong script at the wrong time. I mean, I'd have one person tell me, fly to LA, have lunch with a producer, and he would say, we really love this, this is great. And then somebody else would read it and say, no, it's been done, or no, it's the wrong time. So you've got to be really persistent, and there's an element of luck, given a certain talent level.
Okay. And like you said, there's a network, and a lot of it's who you know, I suppose, or who you know who knows somebody who knows somebody. But you mentioned that one of your mentors was associated with Clint Eastwood, a name that most people recognize in the film business. Can you share a little bit about what you learned from Fritz?
Well, Fritz Maines was the producer of a lot of, if you look him up on Google or the International Movie Database, there's like 8,000 hits. He's just big.
Sure.
And he was a Marine in Korea, was wounded. So when he got the script through another Marine buddy of mine who was a technical advisor, he read it, the first script, and the 19th Province, about the war in the Gulf.
Okay.
And he really liked it. So we talked for months and months, and finally I went out to LA and I signed with his agent. So that gave me, you know, the motivation to continue screenwriting, because at that time I wasn't a very good screenwriter. He liked the script, but I look it over now and it's, you know, it's weak, but it was accepted.
Okay.
So he and I then, because we were both Marines, became very close friends. We talked just about every day. And he came in, he executive produced Abracadabra, and he came in and would come for the shoot and give me tons of information, just background about things like on this movie, on Outlaw Josie Wales, on Firefox, on Heartbreak Ridge. So I'm thinking, wow, this, you know, this is like the Sermon for the Mount, and it just taught me a lot. And you know, he had faith in me. He thought that I did a really nice job at what I was doing. So that gave me a lot of, when you hear Fritz Maines say that to you, you say, well, maybe I can do this.
Okay.
Sort of thing. Especially at my age, you know. I was in my early 40s, and you're thinking, you know, if this guy thinks that I'm good at this, that's enough for me.
Right. Now, have you ever thought about going back to some of the first scripts, tweaking them now that you say, you know, it was weak, but it was okay, and
absolutely.
Now that you know now, and go back and keep tooling them?
Yeah, I have one, Makita, Prince of the Desert Elephants, which is about my favorite script, which I definitely would, if no other script was made, I'd like to have that made into a movie.
Okay.
So.
Well, and again, you could be building on, you know, your experiences, your clout in the film industry.
Yeah, if I get clout.
Oh, I think you. Now, and with this, with any of your films, basically in the independent world, they then get marketed. You try to sell them to film festivals.
Yeah, you try to not sell so much, but you try to get them entered into film festivals with the hope of distribution, that somebody will pick it up, whether it's a major studio, mini major, you know, or whether it's just right to video for foreign distribution. I mean, I'm not an expert on the distribution channel yet.
Right.
But
I bet you're becoming one.
You have to. You have to be, you know, a jack of all trades. You know, I don't want to say a master of none. You've got to master one of them, writing or producing or directing, or maybe two. But yeah, there's a lot to learn. But I really believe, in having done this before, that if it's good, and people start talking about it, and Emerson, there's a lot of Emerson people in this movie, including a professor, students, production end, and you know, there is an Emerson, I don't want to say mafia, but it's a very good school with people all throughout the business. And so with that said, there'll be buzz somewhere if it's well done.
Okay.
So
and now, do you have with you in your current project anyone who is looking towards you as a mentor?
Actually, I do have a few people who bring that up to me, which I find amazing, because you know, I have experience and I'm generally pretty good at what I do. But you know, to me, you have to have a body of work before you can be consider yourself a mentor. And I'm starting to develop that. And people, you know, I think the one thing that young people who have mentioned that to me get excited about is that a guy my age, and I'm not old, but a guy my age has this excitement. Sometimes more excitement than the young people, and so that motivates them. When they see somebody, you know, like me doing this and very excited about it and thinking a somewhat young way, they get very excited and it motivates them. So it's motivation through leadership, which I think is really important.
Okay, and I think you mentioned to me off camera that you're interested in anybody who would like to be involved in your current projects or to join up with you. They can contact you through us at the Hockomock Film Festival website. So again, the support at hockomockfilmfestival.com. They can send us an email and say that they'd be interested in whatever aspect are their passions, and we'll get them in touch with you, so that you never know what kind of person you'll find there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As well, you know, for our own interest here in the Hockomock Film Festival, if people are out there who are interested in filmmaking, have experience, sound, lighting, all that kind of stuff, we would love to have them come join us here at the show, talk about their experiences. We'd love to hear their war stories. You have truly war stories, but we'd like to hear their war stories. So, so the folks at home, please contact us at the hockomockfilmfestival.com. Write us support at. I want to thank you, Joe, for sharing some of your life with us and some of your passion. The time goes so fast. I could talk to you for about 2 more hours.
Well, thank you for having me. It was enjoyable.
Thank you. On behalf of the Hockomock Film Festival, I'm Lauren Swartz. I'd like to say good night. And Joe, much luck, and we'll look forward to you coming back.
Thank you.
Good night.
Appreciate it.